Welcome to The Well, where we get together and talk about life, death, and everything in between. I'm Pastor Carrie, and my favorite screwdriver head is a Phillips.
My name is Jay, and my favorite cereal is Golden Grahams.
My name is Tim, and my favorite topping is whipped topping.
Fantastic. Pastor Tim, I think you might have a joke for us today.
I do. I don't know if many know this since we're all biblical scholars. Did you know what type of man Boaz was before he got married?
No. Please tell
us. He was ruthless.
Ruthless.
Oh, no.
That assumes a large amount of biblical knowledge.
Boaz's wife was Ruth, and they were the grandparents of David, the king of Israel.
Yeah.
Read your Bible.
Yeah, definitely crickets on that one. All right. Wonderful. Well, it's great to be back with you guys. I have missed it, and it's wonderful to be back around this table. We are going to go ahead and call Mel. Mel is the guy who lives in the well. And so, Mel, why don't you go ahead and come on up here? Oh, he's got to get up there. All right, there he is. Hi, Mel. You can say hello to everybody.
Hey, Mel.
Hey, Mel.
How's it going? Good, good. Now, Mel lives in a well at the bottom, actually in a little antechamber at the bottom of a well. And so he, for thousands of years, has heard lots of conversations that people have had on and around and near that well. And he writes them all down just in case someone would need a topic to discuss at some point. So he's going to go down and get us a topic and see what he comes up with. You ready to go, Mel? All right. Go ahead, buddy. Get us a good one now. Oh, yeah. Swimming around pretty good there.
Time delayed jump.
Here he comes. Well, it's a long well. It takes a long time to get to the bottom.
yeah.
So, okay. Oh, it looks like he's got one. Okay, he's coming on up. All right. I'm so sorry.
Wait.
All right. There we go.
Oldest child, 0.
Oh, my gosh. I know. Thank you so much, Mel.
Thanks, Mel.
All right.
Well, I'll tell you what. Mel brought us a paragraph this time.
Ooh. So no wonder he went down so deeply into the well.
I think he went for it. So, it cannot be denied that too often the weight of the Christian movement has been on the side of the strong and the powerful and against the weak and oppressed. This despite the gospel. This was said by Howard Thurman. So discuss the sad irony of this statement. Is there hope for this narrative to change?
There's always hope, and that's what we live by. But my experience over my years of ministry is that the gospel for and to the poor and outcast has been set aside in favor of the gospel of the powerful and the wealthy. Even if you just look at how popular the theology of prosperity gospel is right now, ignores and almost in a pharisaical way puts aside the caring of the poor and outcast and the downtrodden, which is what the gospel calls us to. I hope that this will change, but as I live my life, it's not gotten any better, and it's gotten worse.
What do you think?
What a powerful statement that is. And Howard Thurman, I would highly recommend anything that he wrote. He was I don't know if you want to say one of the first African-American theologians, but sort of one of the first really, really widely read, celebrated. And his stuff is just so amazingly powerful. I feel like it's the golden rule, right? That those of the gold make the rules. And that happens with every movement that gains steam and gains power. All of a sudden you have a whole structure whose well-being and livelihood depends on the structure itself. And so instead of spreading the gospel to those who need it, the institution builds equity for itself and security for itself and consolidates its power, because that's what institutions tend to do when they're big like that. So I also think that there's hope. And I think in context of this question, I would want to say with humans, this is impossible, but with God, nothing is impossible.
Yeah. There's been this quote kind of rolling around my brain for quite a while. It said that, I don't know exactly who first said it, but the paraphrase of it is that the church should be a place where the comfortable are afflicted and the afflicted become comfortable. Yeah. And that came to mind right away when reading this quote from Howard Thurman. And I think where the tension that I'm sitting in is, I think there's a lot of Christians that hear that quote or hear this quote from Howard Thurman and say, yeah. And then we get together as a system or institution. But if we do that, what if that could cause this to happen? Or like making people who are comfortable or empowering the church uncomfortable is a really hard thing. And I think this brings that up. And it makes me think a little bit, recently we were doing a lesson for confirmation on the parables of Jesus. And one of the parables we looked at in our small groups for confirmation was the parable of, I think it's widely known as the Good Samaritan. And just thinking of that, of like, Jesus told this story very specifically to show that people in power were not stopping on the side of the road, and those that were seen as way less than were. And so I think it's clear what Jesus would say about it. It becomes hard when we start to put all of our humanness around it, I guess, right? And collective humanity.
That's right.
So I have more questions than answers, I think. I think it's a great thing to hope for and work towards. I think as leaders, we should take that stance.
I think a hard part, though, is the church been dealing with it for a millennia plus. I mean, 352, when Constantine came in and made the Christianity the religion of the realm, it's been the religion of the powerful. Yes, there have been folks who've stood up against that, but unfortunately, in my experience in looking at history, whenever that's done, including one of the students of Howard Thurman, Martin Luther King Jr., it leads to the cross. Yeah. It leads to death.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And for everyone, power corrupts. Mm-hmm. It just does, right? We don't even really know why, but it does. So the second you get that power, it's really hard to resist. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. All right, Mel, how are you feeling about another swim, buddy?
A little more shallow this time.
A little more shallow? Okay, got it, he says. All right, here he goes. Oh, yeah, he did kind of. There we go. All right, looks like he's got one. Here he comes. There we go. All right, thank you, Mel.
Did Mel listen?
True or false? One cannot critique a religious tradition unless one has been a faithful adherent of it. Have you ever felt that your life was in danger?
Oops, is that two put together by mistake?
Yeah, I think it is.
So let's maybe just take the first
your
one.
life be in danger if you did one of those things.
I know.
I think they can put together.
Wow.
Let's go. True or false? One cannot critique a religious tradition unless one has been faithful adherent of it.
Oh, it's me first. That's right. It definitely makes me think of Barbara Brown Taylor's amazing book, Holy Envy, when she does make some points that are very similar to this. And one of the things that she says is, don't compare your religion's best with someone else's religion's worst. And how do you know bests and worsts unless you've actually been a practitioner of it, right? So I feel like what this question is sort of leading us to do is to stay humble, to embrace our humility and the fact that we, in our humanness, in our creatureliness, don't know everything, and we certainly don't know the heart and mind and intention of the Holy Spirit and how the Holy Spirit works. So Yeah, that's what I would say about that one.
So I'd say when speaking about other like religions, I would agree. Well, you're saying, my mind went to questioning or critiquing things within our own religion, and wondering when I'm feeling like I don't know if I could say true or false, right? Like a little bit in the gray there, because although I do, I do consider myself a Christian. I want to, live according to Christ, and at the same time, like there are things within my own life, but also within Christianity that like I am going to stand up against or make a statement on, or be sometimes because I've experienced it, or sometimes because I've watched how it's hurt someone else. So if it's hurt someone else in my life, I maybe haven't been an adherent to it, but also I think I would be ready to question it. So that's why I'm like, I kind of want to live in the gray, but I also don't. I think this statement is true when it comes to, speaking of other religions, for sure.
I would say that, but I would say in all religious traditions, there are some practices that are done that are life-taking or unhealthy, and that those should be lifted up and critiqued, even if I'm not an adherent of it. If I think of the situation with that group who's into polygamy in Colorado and Utah, where they've taken young girls and married them off early, and that's abusive. And I think we need to stand up and say, no, that's wrong. So I think there are some traditions within different religions, including our own, that are not healthy, that need to be held out. I'm also thinking of clergy abuse, where clergy had so much power that they were using that power to abuse others physically and sexually. And I think that in a tradition of being quiet needs to say, no, we need to stand up against that. And in a way, that had been a tradition. And not just one denomination, folks. It's all of them have had that problem. So
yeah, I haven't. I think that's a really good point, Pastor Tim. I haven't thought of that as in my initial thought as a tradition, but I think in some cases it's for better or for worse been allowed to happen, that it can be considered a tradition. And obviously we need to speak against those too.
So I think those areas of religion that are life-giving, no matter what the religion is, we lift up that are mirrors of the Spirit. But those that are life-taking, mirrors of evil, we need to call out no matter what religion it is.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think, again, with humbleness and humility, in the sense that we know that whatever religion it is, a religion and the traditions around religion are human.
Yes.
Right? And they're certainly, hopefully, a reflection of God's love for creation.
Yes.
But they are human and fraught with all of the brokenness that we humans carry with us.
Yes.
Yeah. Agreed. All right. Yeah. Good?
Yeah.
All right, Mel, get a lighthearted one, maybe. You want to try it one more time for us? All right. Perfect. Here we go. It does seem like
That's a great breaststroke.
Mel's trying to go for two of them here. I don't know.
Let's see. What's he doing there? All right. Now I think he's good. All right. Here he comes.
Did that last time.
Yeah, I know.
Got it on this. There we go. Thank you very much, Mel.
Thank you, Mel.
Bye, Mel.
Okay. All right. My turn to read. All right. This was something that was overheard. If there were no evil, there would be no good, for good is the counterpart of evil. Your thoughts. If there were no evil, there would be no good, for good is the counterpart of evil.
Thanks for having me be the one to start this one, huh?
You get a treat after this, though.
Yeah, I know. We're working to the recipes.
Exactly. Just keep that in mind.
I feel like for all three of these questions, I've kind of taken the gray area. So I guess I'm going to throw this out here and want to hear your responses to what I'm throwing out, because I'm thinking out loud.
Sure.
I'm thinking about a candle, and so I relate to the first part of the book of John, like that idea of Jesus being the light of the world and light that darkness cannot overcome. That's just imagery that has been influential in my life. And so when I think about if a room's really dark, a candle makes a big difference. And if a room is bright, like a candle, you don't necessarily notice the difference a candle makes. And so part of me is thinking, like, if Jesus is related to a light in the darkness, it's acknowledging that there is a darkness for the light to enter. Where I'm struggling is making a for sure statement saying that goodness wouldn't exist without evil. And honestly, that's where I'm landing right now. It's just like totally thinking out loud on it. Hopefully some other thoughts will come in a minute here.
I'm thinking back to the garden story, and before the fall, those were air quotes for those who are listening.
Yes.
There was no knowledge of good and evil. So is it our, and I don't want to discount evil and good, but part of what we call evil, is it evil because we call it thus? I'm thinking out loud here too. Can there be good without evil? Can there be love without hate? I think there can be. And I think that's what eternity is, living in the eternal life, is trying to live in that goodness. But we're in the broken humanity, so there's still our brokenness. So I think one day we may experience goodness without evil, but I can't fathom, but I don't know if it's an exact correlation.
And I think, like, when you were saying that, I just thought our human experience has hate and evil. And so for us, we think of, this goodness overcoming evil, or light overcoming darkness, or love being louder than hate, because we experience these things and then its response to it, perhaps. So,
but we also say hate is learned. Prejudice and racism is a learned trait.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that we point to when we look at what the Enlightenment did to Christianity, right, was really reinforce this idea of dualistic thought. And not everybody has it, but we have it in spades. Right? We are washed in it. It is in our embryonic fluid.
Yeah, I think so.
Embryonic fluid? Is that?
Yeah,
That sounds weird coming out of my mouth.
It even goes back to the Greek theology before the Enlightenment of that.
It does. Right. Yeah, Enlightenment kind of, reinforces some of that, but this idea of this dualism, right? And I think that our human experience, we frame it that way, but there also is something to it as well. Like you said, like there are these things that exist. But I think in God, there is no dark or light. There is no good or evil. God is God, the ultimate good, and whatever that means. We can also make an argument of what does good really mean, right?
Why do you call me good?
Right, exactly. What is when we really go deep on what holy is? Holy isn't always what you and I would think of as good, right? Because holy, HOLY, is holy, WHOLLY, other, right? And we can't predict, we can't know, and sometimes holy doesn't look like what we think of as good. So again, a little humility with like what Pastor Tim, what you were saying. Is it evil, Or is it just our perception? Because we all know this, right? There's examples of something being evil, but to someone else it was good, right? Or like when we think about, the manifest destiny, like to white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, it seems like a really good idea. To Native peoples, it's a really, really evil thing.
Right.
And of course, it was. But the perception is also reality sometimes, So, I think the question is in questioning the dualism. It's really difficult, and that's why I love it, right? Because you can feel how difficult that is in your brain, so you know that you're doing some good work when you're questioning the dualism.
And in a way,
our
when we
perceptions.
decide good or evil, we're declaring that we're the winners.
Yeah.
Because that's who gets to decide
right.
what's right and wrong.
Is who says what's good and what's evil.
Right.
Exactly. Fantastic. Well, that was a good one to, I think that leads right into apple pudding. What do you guys think
obviously.
about that? I think so too. So each week we have a different cookbook. A lot of them are from here, from St. Luke's Lutheran Church cookbooks from way back as far as 1921. Also, we have cookbooks from other churches, but just any kind of church cookbook. Today, I cooked a recipe out of the St. Luke's ALCW, that's the Women of the ALC, cookbook from 1976. And this recipe happens to be from my great-grandmother, Frida Groth. She made this recipe called apple pudding. For the record, even though I knew my great-grandma really well, I was married when she died. I don't ever remember her making this. So it's brand new for all of us.
Once it was published, she never made it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really like butter, sugar, apples, baking soda. Baking soda. A little bit of salt. I already said sugar, right? Because there's like lots of sugar in it.
Well, it's from 1976, right?
It's from 1976. And then we put you gotta put a little, that was a good sound, whipped cream on top. Full disclosure, I made this yesterday, so maybe it's supposed to be warm. It didn't say.
Okay,
that's
for
more
everybody
whipped
listening,
cream.
this needs to be said out loud. I would say that Pastor Tim went.
His opinion on the pudding is not valid
Yeah.
because he's mostly eating whipped cream.
Yeah.
Very good.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's got nuts in it too. I forgot about that. I don't know. I feel like I've never eaten anything that tasted like this before. It's not cake, is it? It's not really cakey.
No.
I guess
it's like a coffee cake.
But there's no cake-like texture, is there?
I mean, it's
Kind of mushy. I guess
It's
like
not
pudding,
necessarily
right? More like
like-
bread pudding.
but not like the consistency doesn't really fit bread pudding quite though.
It doesn't. It's a really strange, consistent. Not bad.
So
I'm
if
gonna-
I can
Doug.
chime in for a second,
Yes, please.
I think it's really funny that we had a conversation yesterday that you hate oatmeal cookies.
This is what I was just gonna
this
say.
tastes a lot like an oatmeal raisin cookie to me.
Really?
Yeah.
But there's no raisins in it, thank God. But there are pecans. Okay, I can
crust
get
is
that
really
though.
good.
Yeah, it's like
Like-
a like our blondie, a little
Yeah.
bit like of that flavor too, like that oatmeal cookie.
Like if one of my favorite
Good.
oatmeal cookies is one that is slightly undercooked.
Oh,
And I think
With
that's
which
I think
this
that's
is
where
kind of-
I'm
I like
going
that.
with this.
But the crust, I think, is the best.
the texture is the crust is good. The texture is a little bit like an underbaked cookie. Yeah, you're right. But it is fully baked. Okay, I will give it. Oh, isn't it? It's hard for me, right? Because it's my relative who
Oh, yeah,
submitted the
'cause you said
recipe,
who made
so
it.
I pretty much have to give it 5 stars. 5 stars for me.
I'm 4, but like a really big 4. Are we allowed to go halves?
I think so.
I'd go 4.5. I really would.
You know, I would make this and I would eat it, and I would die younger. So I have to give it a 5. I really enjoyed it. It
all
was
right,
good.
good.
And it wasn't my great grandma. I enjoyed it. It was really. It reminds me of stuff that I ate when I was a child.
Yeah, which 1976. Oh, you weren't younger.
I was a teenager then, not a child. But that's
A
okay.
teenager.
We'll take that. Keep it going.
What do you think, Doug?
4.5 oatmeal raisin cookies out of
Okay.
5. Yeah.
Now, okay, let me ask you this. Would you, if you were going to make this, put raisins in it?
I would consider it. I would consider it.
I think I would try it. I really would.
All right. I think it would be a mistake. But I do understand it.
But not in the sense of it needing to be made better, strictly because it reminded me of one of my favorite things.
Okay.
But not to like make it
To
better.
make it better.
Right.
I do admit that its texture, you would not be surprised to find a raisin in there.
Right.
Right. It would be expected.
I could see other dry fruit being put into that.
Oh
That
my
would be
gosh,
good.
no.
Like a dried mango would be really good.
Such a horrible thing to do to a dessert. Which takes us just seamlessly right to our God moment.
Right.
Jay, did you have a God moment that you'd like to share with us today?
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna have a sense of vulnerability here to share my God moment. Is in this day, this moment that we are recording this podcast, I legitimately came in pretty frazzled, and Doug, our producer, literally said, like, I saw the frazzled nature, and not necessarily from anything bad, just feeling it all, right? And my God moment actually happened during our conversations of just realizing, like, even though, like when we leave this room, some of that stuff's still there, but like I say to youth a lot, like, God meets you where you're at. And then when the things that you like say and preach hit you like in the face in a good way, that God literally met me where I was at in these conversations. That is my God moment of just like the conversations themselves, giving me some perspective on the world around me. So yeah, thank God for that.
Thank you, Mel. Nice
Thanks.
questions.
Good job, Mel.
No, they were intense questions.
They were.
I had some thoughts about Mel on the second one there. I was like, I don't know if I'll answer this, but it was good. Like to just process the world of a God that's just so much bigger than us, and that perspective is scary but helpful at the same time.
Sometimes especially when you're all stuck up in your head.
Yeah.
And like, all of a sudden it's that a little bit of grounding.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. Microphones.
Yeah.
Very
These microphones do something to us.
Very grounding.
Not at all.
Very grounding.
God moment or send? We just do one, don't we?
Yep, we just do one.
So thank you for journeying to the well with us.
Wonderful to have you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Go in peace and serve the Lord.
The Well is a podcast of St. Luke's ELCA in Middleton, Wisconsin. You can follow for new episodes airing every other Thursday on St. Luke's website or wherever you get your podcasts. If you would like to drop a question in The Well, you can dive over to stlukes-elca.org/thewell to submit your questions there. The Well is sponsored by St. Luke's Foundation. The foundation is dedicated to leaving a legacy for future generations. You can learn more at stlukes-elca.org/foundation. The Well is produced by Doug Castle and edited by Ariana Vizcara. Thanks for listening, and we'll meet you next time here at The Well.
How hard was it to not thanks be to God that?
I'm still choking on it.
I put way too much
It's
whipped
still
cream
in
on
there.
that.
Oh my God.
I did it for the sound. It was a great sound.
It was crazy.